like to welcome you here today for our Taylor Information Expo. A couple of housekeeping matters first of all, just in case you haven't seen. There is water to tap there if anyone needs any. Bathrooms are located just out the door on your way out to the foyer. And of course, if we do have an emergency situation, please follow any of the instructions that the staff give you. We've got two speakers this morning, myself, and I'll be talking about the ballot process. But first of all, I'm going to hand over to Stacey Quayle, who is the Project Director for Gungahlin and is going to talk to you specifically about Taylor.
Good morning, everyone. As Julie said, my name is Stacey Quayle. I'm the Development Director for Gungahlin and I was the Project Manager for Taylor 1. What I'm going to talk to you about today, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the estate. I'm going to talk to you about the location and the attributes of the suburb, the staging and yield of the suburb, open space network, the environments and some of the facilities that will be provided in the suburb. So for those of you that aren't aware of where Taylor is, and some people who come to these sessions don't know where the suburbs are that we're talking about, we're actually talking about We're actually talking about the far northwest corner of Gungahlin. So as you can see on this plan, you're probably about 4 or 5 kilometres from the Gungahlin town centre and between 13 to 15 kilometres to Civic itself. This next slide, next one please, provides the context for the suburb of Taylor. So what you can see here is the whole of Taylor. Taylor's at 317 hectares in size, so it's a pretty large suburb, probably commensurate to the size of Moore Creek if you've been in there at all. We're looking at about 2,500 dwellings in the suburb, which is a little bit bigger than Moore Creek. The mixes of development type in there will be probably around about 80% single residential development and 20% multi-units, so that will be your townhouses and your apartments. So what, I'm going to step out front, so I'm going to point to the map. So what we're looking at here, in terms of the estate, this yellow area here denotes a public school. At this point in time, the Department of Education is committed to building a P6 school on that site in 2019, but we've reserved enough land there, so if a decision is made into the future, we can actually provide a high school there as well. To the north of that yellow area is the district playing fields. So these are playing fields that will serve the sporting community in the northwestern section of Gungahlin. We're providing 6 soccer fields there. Typically, basic sports unit is provided, which is 2 soccer fields and an AFL field, but there's not enough flat land in Taylor to be able to provide that. So there will be 6 sporting fields. And these 2 facilities together really start to develop the suburb and act as the community hub for Taylor. So what we're also doing just north of the school site here, and what you will see here, we're developing a large neighbourhood playground so that this area acts as that community hub for the whole of Taylor. So we're spending a lot more money in this park than what we usually do to provide a really high quality playground to service the whole of Taylor and part of Moore Creek as well. Moving out from this community hub, we will also have in stage 2 of Taylor, which is up here, a local centre, so a shopping centre there. We'll be reserving a site there to be able to provide some shops and some recreation facility, and associated with that site will also be another playground, a local playground. And scattered throughout the suburb along the open space spines, when you're looking there you see those green spines, there'll be additional playgrounds in there. Those open space spines follow creeklands that come through the suburb, which eventually exit out through the eastern part of the suburb. What you're seeing here, highlighted to the south, is Taylor 1. So Taylor 1 at the moment is under construction. If I could have the next slide, please. This provides a little bit more detail of just Taylor 1. So it's got the school, it's got the sporting fields, it's got the large playground, and it's actually got the first stage of construction. So that is fully under construction at the moment. We've got 2 separate contractors out there building it. And for those of you that might be interested in seeing what the suburb actually looks like, this portion in here, stage 1B, has actually finished. So you can actually go in there and drive around those streets and you can get a sense of what the streets are like, what the blocks are like. Whereas we're not actually selling anything along there, it's all sold. We'll give you a sense of what it is that we're delivering on the ground for you. The rest of the suburb is still under construction. What we also have is stage 2 of construction. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see what is under construction at the moment. But what's to the north of that, because the plan is upside down, is Taylor 2. So we're actually preparing the planning for that at the moment. It's an additional 800 or so dwellings in that area, and we've got the DA in for that at the moment. So Apple will be putting that on public exhibition shortly, so you'll be able to see what we've got planned for the next stage as well. Next slide, please. What's going to be very important for you guys in having a look at what blocks you might be interested in is what that block actually is. What is the size of that block? What you can do on that block. You'll have got in your information pack a pen like this. At the end of it is a USB. Should have did this one-handed, that's one microphone. Is a USB. That contains all the information you need. It's got the housing development guidelines in it. The housing development guidelines look like this, and I urge you to have a look at this document when you're choosing a block of land, because it will give you the standard servicing conditions for a site. So it will talk you through telecommunications connections, electricity, gas, and so forth, those utility connections to the site and how they will be provided. But it will also talk more broadly about what services are on the site. So on some sites there will be sewer easements, some will be stormwater easements. On some blocks there will be both of those easements. There will also be, on some blocks, access arrangements that Icon Water need to be able to gain access to those services. So in this document is all that information. This document also provides any information you need in relation to specific environmental protection. So there's some issues around the supply of turf and where you get that from, or whether it's weed infested. There's also some information in there about fill and drainage. Taylor is a cat containment suburb. All of our new suburbs in the ECT are cat containment, so that means you need to keep your cat either indoors or in a cat enclosure if they're to be allowed outside. They're not allowed to just roam freely through the suburb. And that's because of the proximity to nature on your doorstep. NBN Co will be providing you telecommunications, and we've got a contract with them at the moment. They'll be hauling cable in there. What the housing development guidelines also talk to you about is bushfire protection measures. Luckily, the blocks that we've got for sale this round don't have any specific requirements for bushfire protection. Talks to you about if you need a courtyard wall, what the provisions can be for those. As I said, the utility access requirements, but also some specific planning controls that we might be bringing forward that will be included in the territory plan when you lodge your development application. So if we go to the next slide, in this document that I showed you has a plan just like this for every single block that's in Table 1. What it shows you is the size of the block. It shows you the lengths or boundaries of the block. It will give you your block and section number. But what it also does is has certain annotations on it. So if that is bushfire affected, it will have a symbol on there saying BAL, bushfire attack level. If it's noise affected because of road noise, down on Horse Park Drive, it will have an N on it. It will also dictate on some blocks which boundary is to be considered your secondary side setback, which is a control under the territory plan. So in the territory plan, there are setbacks for where you can build your house to the block boundaries, X and Y, for example. But we actually dictate on some blocks which boundary will be your Y boundary. So I really do urge you guys to have a look at this plan, and we're available at the technical stand at the back to help you interpret that document if you need any assistance. But please have a look at that before choosing a block, because it will provide some guidance on the type of dwelling you'll be able to build in your block plan. I'll hand over to Julia now, who will talk you through the land release process and the ballot process.
Good morning again. Facts first, there are 142 single residential blocks available for sale in this ballot, and the block list is in the sales brochure and also available on the interactive map on the Suburban Land Agency's website. Land rent is available to eligible purchasers on blocks valued at $300,000 or less. I'll talk a little bit more about what an eligible purchaser is in a moment if you're interested in that. Please be aware that you can only purchase one block at this release. And of course the block details, including easements, block dimensions and contours, are in the Housing Development Guide. Online applications open for this ballot at 10 a.m. on Monday the 4th of September at our website, which is www.suburbanland.act.gov.au, and you must register by 4 p.m. Friday the 15th of September. The important thing in there is you have 2 weeks to get your registration in. So if you've got any questions about how you should register, what names you need, whether or not you've got related parties that might cause you problems later on, take the opportunity in those 2 weeks to ask the questions before you register. All names that you require on the lease must be included on your application form, and very importantly, all details must match your photo ID. We have had issues in the past with people applying to take part in a ballot and being a little bit cheeky, and perhaps one person puts down their name and their address and their partner puts down an old address. If that happens and we catch you, both registrations will be out. We will not argue the point, we will not discuss it. You are cheating. It is one application per household. The only exception would be if you were perhaps in a household with adult children and the parents wished to enter the ballot and one or more of the children did as well. But we would be following you up on those, and we would be asking you to sign statutory declarations that very clearly identify your relationship. And if you do breach a statutory declaration, there are fines and other penalties for that. If you are interested in land rent, you must elect land rent on your registration to be considered for a land rent lease. Land rent is only available for eligible first-time buyers. If you own a block, if you have a house, if you have a rental property, if you have property that you're thinking you might sell later but you currently own, you are not eligible. It is very much an affordable product. It is for first-time buyers only. Once again, we will be checking. Anyone found to be breaching those conditions will be rejected. After you submit your online application form, you'll receive an email from us confirming your ballot ID number. That's the number that gives you your unique identity throughout the ballot process. If you've done that and you've sent off your online form and it clicks submit and everything looks good and you haven't received an email back from us within about an hour or so, check your junk filter, because some servers will automatically send it there. If you've done that and you still don't have it, contact us. We actually have access to the back end of the program and we can have a look and just check everything went through and send you a copy of that email. Please do that on the same day. Don't wait until registrations have closed. Ring us up about a week later and say, I haven't heard anything, what's going on? It's too late. We have very tight timelines and very strict rules around what we can and can't change at which point. So if you've got any concerns, we always ask that you either contact us or contact Civium. We'll be able to help you and answer your questions. Following the ballot draw, we'll actually be doing a check for related parties. So that was what I was talking about earlier, about making sure people haven't double dipped or put in multiple entries. If you're contacted by either us or our solicitors during that period, you will have a very short time frame, about 24 hours, to get back to us. If you don't get back to us, we will assume that there's a reason you don't want to talk to us and we will reject your application. If you're contacted by us, get back to us. It's the next point, so if 2 or more related parties are found to be registered, both of those parties' applications will be cancelled and they won't participate any further. If you've got any questions about whether or not you might be a related party with someone, have a chat to the team at Sept or any of the ladies in the grey shirt, and we'll be able to help you with this. It is something we're going to be very, very strict on, and unfortunately, because of the process and the volume of interest in these sales, there's really not an opportunity for appeals. If you've done the wrong thing, you're out. So next slide out. If you've made it through the related party check, ballot draw takes place first, then you'll get an email from us. As I was saying before, if you get contacted from us, make sure you reply back. You'll need to RSVP. We always have a number of people who put their name in the ballot right early on and sort of think, yeah, I think I might like to live in town. Things change between then and the ballot draw, and they decide they really don't want to continue to participate. So we ask you to actually opt in at that point. If at any point you're asked to opt in and you don't, you are out of the list. You can't get back in. There's no chance to come back to us and say, oh, I forgot to check my emails. Can you just slip me in? Once again, we're following a very strict audited process. If you are asked to RSVP, please do. Instructions on the RSVP are in the email, and it's really easy. It's a click, follow the link, and it sends us an auto reply. RSVPs close at 4 p.m. on Friday the 29th of September, and only people who've confirmed their interest by this date and time and pass the subsequent related parties checking will be allocated a block selection appointment. Block selection commences on Wednesday the 1st of November. It is booked to potentially run over a couple of days, depending on how many people we get and how quickly the blocks sell. So make sure that you have a look, if you're allocated an appointment, at what time and date you're invited to come along. Obviously, the first 142 appointments are guaranteed a block, because there are 142 blocks here in the draw. However, if you're number 160, please don't panic. Past experience has shown that there are always a number of people who don't turn up or opt out at various points through the process, and generally we get up to at least double the number of blocks available, the number of people we invite before we run out of blocks. That said, if at any point during the process you come in or you check our website and the blocks you're interested in are no longer available, don't feel you have to come. There is no obligation to buy at any point until you've signed a contract. If you can't attend the appointment on the block selection day, you can appoint an agent to act on your behalf. And there's a process for doing that. It actually, once again, needs some paperwork and some ID evidence provided for us. So if you're in that situation, talk to one of the Sept staff, talk to one of our staff, and we'll be able to talk you through the forms and pre-check them for you so we can make sure you've got all the right stuff sorted before you turn up. Make sure you make a list of your block references prior to your appointment, because unless you're number one, there is a possibility that your number one block has been purchased before you arrive. You will be required to exchange contracts immediately after you've selected a block. So if you get through the process, you turn up at your block selection appointment and you pick a block, that's the point at which you are locked in. There's a 5% payable at block selection for this event, unless you're paying by deposit bond. If you're paying a deposit bond, it does need to cover the full 10% of the deposit. We don't accept cash, and you can't leave the venue to get your payment. I can't stress this enough. It's like when you buy at auction, you have to have your cheque with you. We can't let you leave the venue and go down to the bank, go down to talk to the bank about your credit limit. What's the other ones we've had in the past? I've just got to duck down to Mum's because she's going to organise a cheque for me. If you're coming to buy, be prepared to buy. Sometimes, because obviously you've got a list of blocks that you're interested in, there might be a range of prices there. If the cheque that you've had pre-prepared is for more than the value of the block you're interested in, we can either credit that amount to you at settlement, or we can arrange a refund of the difference. So there's a form we fill out with our finance team on the day. It takes about a week for that money to get back into your account, but we can organise that for you. Obviously, on the day, the ID and address at block selection must match your registration. If perhaps you've been a little bit cheeky and you've played some games with your application and we haven't caught you, and you turn up on block selection day and say, oh, actually my address has changed, unless you can bring us documentation proving why your address has changed in that period, for example, a terminated lease and a new lease arrangement, we will not be allowing you to select a block. That applies for everyone that you wish to have listed on your lease, which is actually another important point I probably skipped over a little bit earlier. When you're applying for the ballot, make sure that you have everybody that you need on your lease on your application. We do not allow names to be changed, we do not allow names to be added. We have in the past had people, as I said, who perhaps have partners with a different name and past addresses or whatever, they've both applied to go on the ballot. One of them has ended up quite high in the order, bought a block, and then come to us a month or so later and said, oh, I forgot to tell you, I want my fiancé on the lease. We won't allow it. We can't allow it. It's a breach of our ballot conditions. They've then gone to the bank to try and get the loan, and the bank said, well, no, your income alone is not enough to get a loan. You need your partner on the lease. Unfortunately, that's a mistake we can't fix. If you need your partner's name, your parents' name, your children's name, your brother's name on the lease to get a loan, it needs to be on your registration form from the start. So once again, if you're appointing an agent, they will need to bring that appointment of agent form with copies of IDs, not just for themselves, but for everyone that's going on that lease. And once again, it's about checking that people have done the right thing and we've got all the right people on that form. Please check the estimated date range for the blocks in here. I think all the blocks in this release are actually a very similar date range. We expect at this stage, if the weather gods are good to us, that we will actually potentially have land ready before Christmas. If not, it will be early in the new year. So plan accordingly when you're working out your finances. The details that go on the contract are what actually goes on your Crown lease. And that's why it's so important to make sure it matches what you need for your finance. We can't change them, and if you get to a situation at the bank where they won't allow you to have a loan, you do run the risk of losing a deposit. You are signing a legally binding contract that has no subject to finance clause. If you can't get finance, you will lose your 5%. Once the land's ready, our solicitor will contact your solicitor and they'll serve the lease on you. That triggers the 30 days to settle, which is about the length of time it normally takes a bank to organise their finances. So when you get notification from your solicitor that the land's ready, don't go, oh, that's next month and wait. Take that down to your bank or your financial institution straight away, because it will take them some time to process the paperwork. And once again, the fact that you didn't get organised and talk to your bank when you were first told will not be considered a valid reason for not settling on time, and there are penalties involved if you don't settle. My recommendation is always that you use a solicitor. I've worked for the agency for a very long time now. I actually helped prepare the contracts we're currently using, and when I bought a block of land, not from the agency, I used a solicitor. It's worth every cent to get them to do all the running around. They'll make sure all your things are paid on time, all your forms are lodged on time. The penalties of missing a deadline on a legal transaction like this can be quite expensive, although sometimes you look at the cost of a lawyer and say, oh, it's a bit of money. It's way cheaper than getting it wrong. From the 18th of September, the ACT government is changing the way we collect conveyancing duty, also known as stamp duty. A new barrier-free model is actually being implemented, which will make the process of purchasing a home faster and simpler, and it applies to all transactions registered on the Land Titles Register. There's representatives from ACT Revenue here today, and they've got more information and a little bit of a cheat sheet that explains what impact that will have for you in relation to this purchase. After you've signed a contract and got to settlement, what should you do next? First of all, you are responsible for fencing your block after settlement. So once everything's gone through and you own the block, make sure you think about how you're going to protect that block. very rare that somebody's in a situation where they settle one day and the builder starts building the next. There's usually a lag. The lag may be a week, the lag may be a couple of months. If anything happens to your block in that period, it is your responsibility. We won't be maintaining blocks after settlement. In fact, we legally can't. They become your property and it would be trespass for us to get on those. That said, there are some naughty people out there who might be digging out their block and throwing the rubbish on yours. So please make sure that you fence your block. Speak to your bank and or financial advisor for information prior to entering the ballot. As I said, there's no subject to finance clause in our contracts. If you sign a contract and turn up to your bank and the bank just looks at you and goes, sorry, you want how much money? Unfortunately, we can't help you. So make sure you've informed yourself beforehand. Make sure you have read and understood all the sales documentation for this release, including the Housing Development Guide. We do have a team here today who can help you with that, but we've also got CVM available through the whole sales process, and they'll be more than happy to sit down with you and talk through any questions you might have. As I said, I strongly recommend you appoint a solicitor. And the other people that are very important to speak to now is builders or architects about what you want to build. Every time we have one of these, people come up to me and say, which is the best block? I can't actually tell you that because what I think is the best house with the best block will be very, very different to you. But there are some very simple things that you can do before you go and speak to a builder or architect that will help them give you good advice. How many bedrooms do you want? How many garages? Do you want a rumpus room? Are you comfortable with a 2-storey home? Do you have any requirements in terms of adaptability? Do you have, a passion for a really big garden? All those things. If you think about those and then go and talk to a builder or an architect, they'll be able to give you an idea about the size and orientation of the block that would be suitable for your dream home. They'll be able to tell you whether or not you can buy a block that has significant slope or whether you need a block that's a little bit flatter. All those things will affect your purchasing decision, so think about them now. In terms of more questions, there's the list of all the people we have today. So at the back of the room we have representatives from CVM who are our appointed sales agents for this release. They'll be able to talk to you about both the ballot process and also the blocks that we have for sale today. We have ACT Revenue who will talk to you about the land grant applications, stamp duty and first homeowners grant. Representatives from Environment Planning and Sustainable Development Directorate, which for those of us lay people is Expo. They can talk to you about the territory plan and the development and building approval process. Representatives from the Suburban Land Agency, which is the people in the grey shirt and Stacey, with technical advice and the Housing Development Guide. We have a number of the land rent lenders here. So if you're looking at purchasing under land rent, have a chat to these guys. They'll be able to tell you what kind of information they need to process your application and whether or not it's a suitable product for you. Representatives from the Education Directorate up the back of the room who can talk to you about current options in Gungahlin and a little bit about the new school that's going in Taylor, and also representatives from Ningle, which is our community development program. So thank you very much for your time today, and please stick around and ask your questions.